Legionnaires of the Lariat, we are back with your all-out review. We'll go through our picks, we'll go through the show, and probably explain why All Out was the perfect name for this, because that might be exactly where I am. This show was something else, wasn't it? I'm I'm rarely at a loss for words, but this has put me pretty close. Fellas, Steven, sorry, I'm losing myself here. Let me
See,
introduce
that's how much this show has done for you. You missed the introductions.
I said hi. Does that count? Let me introduce my two very handsome associates here. We have Hound joining us again. And Hound.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thanks for having me back, gentlemen, and I appreciate the compliment.
And as always, we have my tag team partner, stevezapf. Steve, how we doing?
I'm great. We know I'm ugly. My face is made for radio.
Man, oh man.
Don't be like for that. Print.
That's good. I've never heard that before. That was good. So yeah, things happened.
This pay-per-view.
This thing happened, and I'm not quite sure where to go. Why don't you guys go first? Well, Steven, give me some quick reactions as I try to compose myself.
So real quick, we all know I'm not the biggest AEW guy to begin with. I know Hound is not the biggest AEW guy to begin with, but we are wrestling fans, and we try to give them the benefit of the doubt on a lot of things. I'm going to throw this one to the Legion a little bit. Guys, if you are listening to this, if you are watching our review of this, whatever it is, in the comment sections below, if you liked this, I want to know why. Like, is it, and if you liked it, I need a real reason, not just blind faith in AEW. Because if we're working on the 5-star scale overall for this pay-per-view, I'm giving it 2.5.
I mean, that's just average. It's probably got to be lower than that, no?
Here's the thing is, some of my highs were really high. Fair. And I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt for that. But the lows are low.
So, Steven, I'm kind of convinced that AEW is trying to outdo WWE before WWE does it. If you've kind of actually seen a lot of the matches, they've kind of scheduled matches right before WWE has, and now I don't know if there's potential leaks, but it's all so convenient that it happens. The first thing that comes to mind is the I Quit match between Christian Cage and Edge, and then you had the Cody Rhodes AJ Styles one happen. There's been a few of these situations, but even now, like if you look at this compared to what Survivor Series is supposed to look like, I could see some of these things.
Well, even Bad Blood. You have a
I'm sorry. Bad Blood is what I meant to say. And that's kind of what this felt like. This felt like ultra violent Bad Blood. And there has been rumors of WWE leaking right now. Some things I don't know what headline I saw. But good old JR was looking for someone to get fired over some leak that had just happened. And so I don't know if that's what it is. But something's up, and I feel like they went to 11 real quick on this one, and this is just not my type of wrestling. And when it comes back to what we usually say, my narrative around AEW is typically, I love the wrestling, I want more story, and if they can just find the happy medium, I'm in.
Yeah, we always go after the booking more than anything else. Like the wrestlers are going out there and they're doing their jobs for the most part. And it's not their fault that they don't have, that the story is on A and then they're jumping to D, basically. Yeah. This
went the complete opposite direction. And I'm not quite sure. Hound, we haven't heard from you yet, buddy. What are you thinking on this one as early thoughts?
Well, I know we're going to break down things further in depth for everyone as we go match by match with this, but definitely, to echo Steve, there were some high highs, there were some parts where I was like, yeah, I love that, cool, even if it was a bit too superhero-y, or it's like, a human can't do that. But forgive me, I don't know how else to say this, I'm just not into snuff films, and this was borderline that. Like, I guess the phrase we were using of it is this was a lot much, not a bit too much. This was a lot much.
It sure was. But I will say the thing that let's start with the first match here, because this is probably, I think this might have been my favorite match of the night. I know they went again to 11 quickly, but we had MJF versus Daniel Garcia. Uh, this is the only match that any of us had any difference in pick, so like I'll kind of save. I know we usually go pick by pick, but Hound and I, we swept. We got everyone right. Steven, you got one wrong, and I did hear rumors that Daniel Garcia was actually supposed to win this match, but because of contract disputes,
his contract is still up in the
Yeah.
air. That's what I'm hearing. I actually had that written down here, is that Daniel Garcia's contract is up in the air. I'm still a little bit in the mindset that Daniel Garcia didn't need to win this, or MJF didn't need to win this match. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Especially with the way the finish went about. There's no difference between Daniel Garcia losing this match and hitting MJF with, basically writing him off at this point, or Daniel Garcia winning it and doing it.
The MJF can't lose heat at this point in time. It's impossible for him to lose heat. He is so over, and he can lose to anyone and still look just as strong. He's invincible when it comes to that, in my opinion. Daniel Garcia, I think, gains a lot from this win as he comes back. I'm more disappointed that MJF is now going to take a little hiatus because he just came back. I feel like he came back for, was it 2 months, and now he's gone again?
I was going to say, yeah, he just came. His first pay-per-view match back was Forbidden Door.
Yeah, that was his first pay-per-view, right? Yeah. So that wasn't really all that long ago.
No, that's like 2 months ago. Hound, I know you're kind of big on that. MJF did need to win this match, though.
Yeah, and this is my take when it comes to that. I do think MJF is their biggest star. And having your biggest star lose, whether they have a title or not, I think has to mean something. Not saying it wouldn't have done wonders for Garcia, but I don't see where they make him go from here. I don't see what program it ties into. If they're trying to make this, okay, MJF is written off for, let's just say, 2 weeks because he's got a vacation coming up, going somewhere. When he comes back, if they decide to blow off with Garcia at whatever their next pay-per-view is, and he wins there, you may have already started sowing the seeds of, as you mentioned before the show, Steve, maybe Garcia going towards the TNT title or the Continental title, or maybe all the way back to the ROH Pure title when him and Yuta were going through their little program.
He takes the Continental title off Okada.
But I don't know if we can get there, but maybe. And the only common ground I see there is Okada and Perry are both part of the Elite. So if that win puts him into, okay, now I'm going to feud with the Elite, which might be the Elite with other folks at this point. We'll get to that later. I think that's a way to do it, but I think a loss to an MJF loss matters a lot in that company right now. I think it's it's kind of getting the rub.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I see where you're coming from. I do think that MJF can do no wrong right now when it comes to putting somebody else over. Like he walks into the ring, and you'd expect him to win every match at this point in time. I get that. Like a lot of us did pick to him to lose to Ospreay because Ospreay's at his caliber and they're building him to this level. I actually think that Ospreay goes into a match, you can expect you don't always expect him to win because he will do the job for the right person. So he seems more likely to lose than MJF. So that's why this would have been so surprising. I think if I can quote myself, there's no chance in this universe that MJF loses this match when Steven chose Garcia. That's how strongly, it was something along those lines. It's how strongly I thought he won this match. And with that being said, I still think that he could have lost this match and lost nothing. Got him to his movie, came back, probably decimated Garcia as a payback.
I also think the ending of this match actually holds a little bit more water if Garcia wins it. So the fake handshake looks more believable if Garcia gets a roll up pin or something like that. Like he gets the jackknife real quick and wins, and then MJF does the whole it's in my nature, kind of like Hound said last time. It's in my nature to do this, but like I respect you. Like you're proving that you're on my level, and then he goes for the kick, and Daniel Garcia knows that it's coming, and then he hits it, and then you write him off for a few weeks. Because you took a pile driver off the second turnbuckle, you can't be around for the entirety of next month, basically.
However long the movie takes. Yeah. Go ahead, Hound. You're going to say something.
So, I don't necessarily agree with the handshake being a little bit more had MJF lost. Because if he had lost to, let's say, the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, I don't see that. He's too petty. He's far, far too petty. So even though he won with the quick jackknife, that's the whole being petty. Good attempt, kid. You're pretty good out there. Like that plays more into the character, at least in my opinion. And and I see what you mean. It's saying Garcia writing him off, but if with that finish. But the only way I think that works is if that was the finish that led to the pin, not the quick roll up and then the schmaz after. I think if Garcia put him out like that, then we have a different story.
Yeah, okay. I think he wins that match that way, but with the second rope pile driver, and then they cart him off. They cart MJ off into the sunset. I don't think you get that whole
flipping off the crowd.
Maybe instead of the wave. But with that whole countered low blow to the low blow, that was I popped for that a little bit. I won't lie, because I kind of saw it coming. I was like, oh, Garcia, don't let him do it. He's gonna do it. Don't let him do it. And then he didn't let him do it. It was great. There were parts of this match that I really did enjoy, particularly towards the end. They had what felt like 10 minutes of just on the mat wrestling. Reversing different submission moves, really just keeping it to the mat. And I feel like I haven't seen that in a minute, and really, really enjoyed that. I know, Hound, I want to talk a little bit about how this match kind of just started out on fire. I know that we had quoted, when we were talking about it, we both watched another review show who had said that they started at the go home moment and then went on for 20 minutes. Yeah. You didn't seem to enjoy that. And so kind of, I know the storyline begets the fact that they have this blood feud, so of course they're going to start hot. But tell me a little bit more why you wish it didn't start so hot.
See, it's not that I didn't wish it started so hot. It's that, okay, great, you cranked it up to, let's just say you cranked it up to 9 to start the match. Well, going to 10 from 9 isn't much, so how are you going to build to something? Like, you're going to have to either have the surprise roll-up out of nowhere, or you're going to have something so devastating, but it needs to lead to it properly. And that was the only thing about it, is it was like, okay, I thought when they started that hot, we were looking at a 7-minute match. And I think that could have just been, okay, here's what we're doing, having been around wrestling virtually probably 2/3 of my life at this point. I think it may have just been something where I was like, oh, okay, here's what they're doing. Wait, why aren't you doing that? Kind of thing, kind of throwing the formula out a little bit there. No complaints about the match other than that. I wish it had started a little bit slower. Like, even if it was 2 minutes of, hammerlock trade, this, that, and the other thing, typical shoulder block drop down, all that stuff to lead into some things, make Garcia look good, make MJF look stronger, because he is physically stronger. And to go into that and then lead into, okay, we're just starting with a haymaker. But I do also understand the anger behind this from Garcia. He has to come running out and go after that stuff, but you can still build off of, okay, Garcia jumped him, which is very much the heel move. I'm sorry. So MJF is the face again.
That one I gotta throw a flag on. This is this is someone who just was taken out by MJF, someone who always breaks the rules and never seems to get his comeuppance. I get why the face comes in hot out of the crowd, out of nowhere in this
MJF is
situation.
just misunderstood. It's like the Karate Kid. The true hero of that was Johnny.
That I get. I don't see how MJF is Drew McIntyre's the real face, but MJF. I don't know if that guy knows what a face is.
He played a great face for a little while. He really
I'm
did.
sure he did.
But...
I don't believe it, but I'm sure he did.
No,
Steven,
I know what you mean.
Before we move on from this match, what anything you wanted to kind of chime in on this match particularly?
So I liked a lot of the stuff in this. I did like the ground wrestling, like you said. One thing I think MJF is the biggest star in this promotion. I think he is. It kind of like we said, it's almost like he can do no wrong. I will say this: I'd almost like him to tone down some of the goofy sometimes. Like when he gets a little bit more serious, I like it a little bit more. And even when he locked in the Salt of the Earth and then he changed it into like the leg grapevine with it, and then he grabbed the arm. When he grabbed the second arm, he just made this goofy face. And I was like, it's again, kind of a running thing with this show. It was too much. If he had just made an angry face or like you saw him really thinking about it and then grabbed the arm, it would have been different. But he made kind of like for older wrestling fans, a berserker or a Bruiser Brody looking face. Like he was like, before he grabbed the arm. And I was like, okay, he lost me a little bit on that one. But overall, the match, I don't know if this was my favorite match. I think this is up there, though, on this card. It really only has like 2 other matches that it can contend with. Yeah.
So the one thing is, I think part of his gimmick is that he doesn't take anybody seriously. And that's kind of that coming out. And like, I do like the idea of him doing this over the top heel because he's not taking anybody seriously for the moment he does take somebody seriously. And then we're in that situation where it's like, oh no, shit just got real. So like, not to tell you I disagree, but I disagree, Steven.
It's just that one area. Like it was just too over the top.
That was too over the top on this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing.
That's the line. That was the line for me.
Well then, let's go to the match that was probably the bottom for me, close to, because I just have no idea why it existed on this card. The Young Bucks versus BCC. We all had the Young Bucks because so we didn't record this because we didn't know this match existed when we did our predictions. We all had the Young Bucks because of course we did. They're not letting go of those titles because they write the show.
Because you'll have to pry them out of their cold, dead hands. Which, considering the fact that they're not actually young, it might not be that much longer.
I know that in the past there's been bookers that put themselves over. I've never seen such a blatant use of that power, or at least within storyline used to kind of believe this so hard in my entire life than the Young Bucks. It is egregious, and like I did so much that I think it might actually be funny, but it's insane.
It's a little rough.
So Hound, why don't you give us your quick reactions to this match and for the tag team division?
I'm not gonna lie, I love the fact that they're leaning into that character, and I can't wait until they do drop it because it's going to matter so much. But the match itself, while yes, one of the lower points of the night, compared to what came up next, which, you know, I have to make this one of my more preferred matches of the night looking back because it was a wrestling match.
Fair.
And you know, it was what it was. It was a Bucks match. It was Claudio Castagnoli. It was Wheeler Yuta. Cool moments. Bucks doing their flip stuff. Thankfully, not 4 billion super kicks. There was no super kick party. There were only a few landed, and I appreciated that. That can be a nice little touch of spice, but you can kill a sauce very quick with too much salt. I'm over the giant swing, just them. But other than that, it was you knew what was coming. The Bucks were not dropping this tonight.
I thought Claudio shined really well in this match. I like how, because he is just so much bigger than everybody else in this match. Like, if you look at him side by side, so him coming in and like them going for a double
the
suplex,
the EVP trigger. Oh, and the double suplex, yeah.
The double suplex, and then him reversing it and suplexing both of them. I think it was really well done when he comes in and clears the ring. They did that. They played that really well. Yuta kind of building to the hot tag. Like I liked some of the psychology they had in here, and it didn't feel overdone. You're right. This was probably one of the better like wrestling matches. My hunger was, wow, like of all people, like just like they had just won different titles. Like they weren't going to get the tag titles too, and they're not really a tag team from the past. And like this was just an opportunity. They could have just used this to bring up a young talent tag team and put on a good match and like give them like bring in the ROH tag team champions or something like that. Bring in someone who really hasn't had that much of a spotlight and do this match with them. I get how they needed to get BCC on this card a little bit more, but this just wasn't the way I would have done it.
So they can't bring in the Ring of Honor tag team champions because the problem is the Ring of Honor tag team champions already have another set of belts on top of it.
Yeah, but that's fine.
It's Dustin Rhodes who has the Ring of Honor tag team champions, the Ring of Honor 6-man championship, and then they'd have to go after this. So I agree with you. I don't understand this match. I will say this because I'm not usually the biggest supporter of the Bucks. As far as a standalone match goes, I didn't hate this match.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was good for what it was. I will say this on the Bucks. I get that they're supposed to be the swarmy heel EVPs. I understand all that. I have two kind of knocks on this. One, either they needed to actually cheat to win because I wanted to see a real heel finish, or I needed to see them use the EVP pull to win. I think that would have furthered it along a little bit. Like, hey, like we keep calling ourselves the best in the world, but like, truthfully, we're just drunk with power, and we can make anyone do what we want anyway. So I would have liked to have seen either that route or, like I said, a true heel finish. Because truthfully, they didn't even really cheat.
No, but they didn't really fight a real tag team either.
No.
Like, it's like, that's why that makes a little bit more sense, is that these guys have been tagging together for millennia. I don't know, however old the old Bucks are here. But the BCC really haven't clicked. Like, if this was Mox instead of Yuta,
it would be different.
It's a completely different conversation.
Well, and I think that's my issue with the reason why I'm bringing it up now is it feels like the Bucks are constantly doing this. Like, they're not really cheating.
That's how you abuse power, Steven. Not only do you keep the title, but you go over big. Like, that's how it works.
That's what I mean. Like, we're not catching either end of this right now. So it feels less storyline and more like, oh, we're really just abusing our own power.
Yep, that's why it's so funny.
They're really abusing their own power.
And to kind of add to what you're saying, I see what you're going for, but against this, team that clearly wasn't going to win, there's no need for that. And I think if you did that, you have to start that towards a story of Yuta and Claudio pushing for those. And with what we'll discuss later, they're clearly going to be nowhere near that. So there was no need to add something extra to it. Like this was your plain old meat and veg. There was no reason to add a side dish to this.
So, like, again, I'm not disagreeing with you guys on any of that. What I'm saying is just because it hasn't happened before, I kind of wanted it to happen tonight. Like, none of their very few title defenses, they have not cheated to win. And I kind of needed either a cheat to win or a pull of power on one of these title defenses, one of the 4 that they've done, because they've done 4.
I just want to take a minute and enjoy the fact that we're complaining about booking decisions and how it came across, because I think that's where this train stops and our criticism gets a little bit crazier. It is. We will ease into it because I think this next match has done the least egregious of some of the things that are going to come up. But we have Will Ospreay versus Pac for the international title. Now, this match was fantastic. It always is. The Will Ospreay, you guys know, he converted me quickly here when I was kind of saying, well, the same thing I would say with this match, but he's going too hard and he's going to hurt himself with some of these matches. This is a prime example of that, but he told me to shut up and just enjoy the show, and I decided to shut up and enjoy the show. They had an epic match. I love the build for this. You have 2 legends from England kind of going toe to toe. Someone who's a little bit older, the other one coming up. My problem with this match was it just went too long. It's like the end of it was too intense. Like none of the things matter anymore. Like the hidden blade, it isn't a finisher move. It might as well be a European uppercut, because you have to hit like 37 of them after a weird reverse Hurricane Rana that spikes somebody on the head. There was like 4 of them in this match, 3 of them in this match, and that move looks devastating. That should be put him in the ground, put him in a body bag, Johnny. Like
another Karate Kid reference. I appreciate it.
We can keep going. We can keep going with these. I don't know if anyone swept the leg, but like we can keep going. This match, just the end of it, they were just superhuman. And that's where it's starting to lose me with this match. And I really wanted to like it more than I did, but it jumped a shark. And I think that the rest of the pay-per-view kept kind of jumping that shark as we went. And, I'm being a little hard on about 3 matches. But there's 2 at the end that are crazy.
That are bad enough to...
Yeah, that's swaying some of this stuff, because as we go through this, I'm realizing that I think I was kind of hard on the rest of the card because of the last 2 matches, but at the same time, like this was a prime example of this match went on for too long, at too high of a clip, even way more so than the MJF Daniel Garcia, that I was just like, oh, okay, I'm good. We could turn the page. Let's move on. Steven, what are you thinking here?
So I am also obviously a Will Ospreay fan. I kind of don't know anyone who's not a Will Ospreay fan at this point. And I'm a
if you're not a Will Ospreay fan, you're wrong. Sorry, guys.
Yes. And I'm a Pac fan now. I've been a Pac fan for a while now. Like he's turned me. I will say this. I don't always go for superhuman matches like this. The other side of this is they do this so well that it's hard not to get into it.
Agree.
I do agree with you that the match went too long, which is it at this point with this card. That's kind of like again we're nitpicking at this point, but we knew that Ospreay was going to win this. That's kind of my biggest knock coming into this in general, is that you knew Pac wasn't winning this match. Ospreay wasn't going to win the title back immediately to lose it. And it pulls a little bit of it away. I thought the match was good all around. I do agree it was a little long, and I think some of the stuff is a little bit ding fries are done.
Constantly.
But, and again, this goes back to one of the things I've kind of said in the past. Ospreay, I think, could benefit a lot from having someone really there producing him. because
Yes.
I they've got like Jerry Lynn in the back. You can't tell,
It's good comp.
and Jerry Lynn, who was a guy who went toe to toe with RVD, and they did crazy matches. But he would have even said that this match is a little bit too crazy. Maybe pull it back a little bit. Pull it back, like maybe not hit this one.
Hound, do you think that maybe this happened because of what was going to happen on the rest of the card? Let's pretend for a second that these guys talk to each other throughout the night, which I'm not convinced that happens, that you know what's going to happen in each match. But let's pretend that they are. Do you think that maybe that is a reason because of how crazy shit was about to get, that this is their way of standing out?
Kind of like they had to do this with a virgin ring, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely an interesting way to look at it. I don't think that necessarily that was it. I think what you had was two guys in there who are so incredible, who just were kind of given carte blanche. And I think that was the problem, is they were given carte blanche. That's anytime Ospreay reverses out of something in midair and lands on his feet, it pops me. And when he did it there, that's great. But I agree. The hidden blade, I'm sorry, but if you hit somebody with that, they're not waking up. Like it's not a KO. There's a good chance, that they've unsubscribed from life at that point. So kicking out of those things, it's a shame that finishing moves that are truly devastating aren't protected. The match itself, athletically and even story-wise, was probably the best of the night. And ironically, though, it wasn't my favorite of the night. The match, though, if you could have dialed that back, take 5 minutes off of it, cut out 2 of the unbelievable superhuman moments where, one was Superman and the other was Homelander flying through the air, doing something where you're like, well, I can't do that kind of thing. If they could have taken 1 or 2 of those things out, brought that thing back by 5 minutes, I think 100% you would hit it with a chef's kiss. Great job, guys. You just showed what AEW, the lane they should be looking to be in. But too long.
Are you saying we should have taken about 20% of that off Squirrely Hound?
Yes.
I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I won't let that one hang there. Is that what you appreciate about him? I think Will Ospreay always gets a little bit of a rub from us because we expect perfection out of him now, and when he doesn't deliver, which is a hard place to live, then
especially with us.
Yeah, and when you can always, or when you're always expected to deliver perfection, it's easy to kind of dig at him. Oh, well, he did this one thing wrong. For shame. There's a different match. 50% of it was bad. He did one thing wrong. He didn't have a lace tied, and he should be ashamed of himself. So I say that just to give him the credit he's due, because he's phenomenal. Pac is phenomenal. Steven, I think the moment you and I particularly got really over on Pac was his Okada match.
I think his match with Okada,
moment.
he looked like a star coming out of that match. And I say it all the time. Unfortunately, Okada looked like a guy.
Yeah, he certainly did. And he still hasn't really.
He hasn't proven to me he's not just a guy. And for you're not really a Japanese wrestling fan. Where me and Hound have seen his other matches. So we're I get where he's come from. But he hasn't been that guy in the last year that he's been with AEW.
I haven't watched any New Japan. I've watched some things here and there, but nothing. But I watched none of his career, really. The $16 million man comes in, and he has not delivered on that paycheck. There's multiple people on this card that I would put over on him right this second.
Pac is one of those guys.
And Pac is definitely one of those guys. Honestly, MJF, maybe Garcia, Ospreay, obviously. I won't get into some of the other guys.
Well,
obviously,
maybe Claudio.
No, probably not Claudio, because he's not being handled right. Never was.
That's the problem.
He's never been handled right. Not
Yeah.
him, not him. Everybody, ever.
Everybody. Yeah. He's been mishandled for 20 years now
But
since
like,
he
if you
left
look
Ring of Honor.
if you look at the main event, I'd probably put Hangman and Swerve over him. Bring Joe back. I'd put him over. Like, there's a lot of talent that I'd put over on Okada as of right now, based on what I've seen. So just to put that out there. So just wanted to kind of throw that out and I want to be fair as we go through some of the stuff. And this match was not as bad as I was billing it ahead of time. It was though. Like the end of it was just like they need to know when to go home and they didn't, or like they were told to go home and then someone was like, "That was good, do it again." It's like what? All right, okay, we can do that. The next match, which could have stood out in a really good way, was Willow Nightingale versus Chris Statlander in the Chicago Street Fight. I'm not quite sure why the Chicago Street Fight was necessary here based on some of the things that we see next. And like when we look, that's the problem with this. Like I remember watching in real time and liking some of this stuff more than when we got to the end of it. And now you look back, you're like, it's like revisionist history. But I want to go to Hound here because I went to you last time, Steven, but I have to go back to you here. I was under the impression this was for the title. You guys are cowards. You both took Statlander if it's not for the title. But what's the reason why this was non-title?
So per Willow, she was on the Battleground podcast, and I don't know if this is a work or a shoot, but her answer was CMLL wouldn't sanction the title in a hardcore match. Apparently, I guess CMLL as a promotion doesn't really lean into hardcore wrestling too much, or at least female hardcore wrestling, and did not want to sanction the title in a Chicago Street Fight. Which, even if it's a work, that's a good enough reason for me to go along with. I just wish they would have maybe said that during the show or during the build up, like because we all expected it to be that.
I like that reasoning. They're raised higher in my opinions, particularly in this card, so it helps them. So I'm down with that. Once again, it just shows AEW forgets the rules. We've had this conversation multiple times where they never explain the rules and just expect you to get it. This was billed as a title match. I had found stuff on the internet, and if it's on the internet, it must be real.
Everything on the internet is true.
It's facts. But then at the same time, it came down to it, and it wasn't, and that's why you guys snuck out a win here, and I didn't win the week and beat Hound because of this one. But I'm not salty. You're salty. You're
a radish.
So Hound, what did you think of this match overall?
I actually enjoyed this quite a bit. Granted, there were some. I don't want to kind of jump too far ahead on it, but there was a particular spot that I'll mention in a moment where I had kind of gasped and had to look away from the television. Actually,
vagina.
Well, yes. Well,
it was fantastic.
The first one was the missed swanton through the table that still kicked Willow in the head because it was just poorly timed. It's like, no, Willow needs to sell. They both need to sell this now. She just got falling cartwheel double booted in her forehead. I was surprised. I thought they worked really well together and showed quite a bit of athleticism, and it was believable, for lack of a better word. Like it almost had a, going back to the Osprey Pac thing, where it's like, you're not real. Where it's like, oh no, yeah, you're a human. That would suck. Like, oh, okay, I get that. And then going for a split leg drop, and she moved, and she landed no square first in the middle of that pile of thumbtacks, and I went, oh, and I had to look away because that kind of bothered me a little bit, just because I just don't think I was ever going to see that in my life, and somehow this night got worse.
So bad.
This was one of the better street fights.
Yeah.
I think we've seen in a minute because we've had quite a few of them, and this I thought was done really well. You're right. Willow's done another one of these not so distant in the past. She does this match really well in general, like street fights, no DQ, hardcore matches, and all in all, I actually really did enjoy this. That even that no spot, I was like, oh no, but I didn't look away because I'm surprised that's the first time I've seen that. It's right.
I could have gone my whole life without seeing that and been okay.
And I'm not the biggest hardcore wrestling fan to begin with, but this one I thought was really well. My biggest complaint is the ending. I'm on the fence. And Steven, let me ask you this, because I want you to convince me that I'm wrong here. But so Willow taps out at the end with the chain wrapped around her mouth. That hurts. Clearly, you're going to tap out from this. But do you have her pass out, or do you have her tap out?
I would have her pass out. I would have her pass out. Especially they're both kind of power wrestlers. Mm-hmm. I would have had her pass out. I would have. She's the bigger of the two girls, and they portray her as that. And you're the powerhouse babyface right now. I probably would have had her pass out. I thought I recalled her actually passing out, like the ref just calling it.
No, it was.
But again, I think the commentators did say that she tapped. My thing with this is I really like Willow. I like Chris Statlander. I like the her walking out and saying this is Saturday night. I like stupid things like that sometimes. I like this match just in general, and I think if the matches that we weren't happy with didn't happen, this match would be gold.
Agreed.
But the problem is we still have the end of this show that we keep alluding to that keeps making us think that everything else is worse. If this match was the only gimmick match, this show would have been probably pretty good.
It's a word that I'm looking for, because I know we're going to move on to the next one. And I don't even think it's so much in comparison to what we're going to speak of coming up. For what it was done tastefully. Minus the one spot that made me look away. Which, okay, I can live with that.
That spot was fine. That certainly didn't break any minds except for maybe yours.
Well, listen, we've all got our things. Just that one, it was not expected, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Well, that could hurt.
It was definitely a great googly moogly moment where I was just not prepared.
Good, but who are the chefs? Yes, I'm with you on that front, and I do, Stephen. I do like that announced the reason why it's not a title match. I respect that, though. I just wish they would have said something.
It should have been announced. It should have been announced, even like the week leading into it. Like, we're not allowed to sanction this as a title match. We were planning on it originally. We will still give her title match, or blah 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 blah. But the problem is this is kind of the blow off match for their feud, right?
I think so. I think it is, and that's why I had Statlander going over here, because if you just do go home math here, the way that they set it up was Statlander double crossed her. She won the Eliminator match,
and then lost.
Then lost 2 tag matches in a row, and Willow got to choose the stipulation. That means Statlander's winning.
Yes,
that's the way that math equates. So for the next one, we have the champion Okada versus Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Takeshita. Hound. Something tells me you may have liked this match. Why don't you tell us about it?
So this actually, and this is a little bit of revisionist history, because there certainly was a bit of a high from the Ospreay thing, and you get to look back and kind of nitpick stuff. This actually was my favorite match of the night. Minus there was a running theme with this pay-per-view, and it was too much, as we've discussed, and their comedy spot in the middle was too much. shorten it by one full round of those suplexes, and I think you hit all the marks, because all this was designed to do. Briscoe didn't need to win, but you know what? He's gonna pop the crowd, and he's a solid worker. Orange
love
Cassidy,
Briscoe.
everybody loves, and he's a solid worker. But this is building to get Takeshita and Okada face to face, and you have the whole story of what was it? Takeshita worked for DDT and Okada in New Japan, so you've got two rival guys who were stars in other promotions, who you could almost call the aces of their promotions, finally getting face to face, because that just wouldn't have happened over in Japan. So yeah, that's a big wrestling nerd moment where you're like, oh hell yeah, I'm so excited about this. It's one of those, fantasy booking matches where people are talking about wrestlers we've never heard of kind of deal. But overall, I thought it accomplished what it needed to. I love heel Okada. Like when he flipped off the camera, I laughed because the goofy ass look there, because it's such a far departure from his character in Japan. I love heel Okada. To me, heel Okada is a national treasure. He doesn't need that belt, and he needs to show a little bit more of the New Japan Okada in the ring. The character, love it. Now I just need the work to match the character. But overall, yes, I enjoyed the hell out of this match. And it makes me mad that was my favorite match of the night, because I was pretty well turned off of wrestling after what was coming up next.
Do you know what time it is, Steven? It's time for some Jamokin. That was my biggest complaint about this match, is there was a lot of Jamokin going on.
I was actually going to say it was more subtle Jamokin than I thought was going to happen, though. Like, it was a lot of Jamokin, but it was like, I'm going to season you with some Jamokin. I'm just going to sprinkle a little crack on it, just a little crack. And then, but like, you'd see someone run right back into the ring to do something. So
they did it okay, but there was, like, for the most part, this was a one-on-one match. It just depended on
who was the one-on-one.
Who the one-on-one was at any given time.
All the Jamokin.
I really want to see one of those matches where there is no Jamokin, because you could just have two people square up the entire time and just kind of rotate. And they could just keep wrestling. Put two cameras on them. Do something where you have them in a situation where you're not just laying on the ground because we're trying to give these two guys their moment in the sun.
I mean, if we do a picture-in-picture for commercials during Dynamite, I feel like we can do a picture-in-picture to follow, like, a fight on the outside.
Yeah. So, but other than that, Steven, what were your thoughts here?
To go along with what Hound said, I'm unimpressed with Okada's current in-ring presentation. I'm not saying he can't wrestle. What I'm saying is we don't see it. I now, then, forever will love Mark Briscoe. I love a froggy bow. I love redneck jitsu. I love everything about him. He's a character, and he's a character who can wrestle. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, give me all of that. Give me an act. But, like, that's not an act. That's actually who Mark Briscoe is.
It's just who he is.
There's nothing fake about the Briscoe brothers at any point in their illustrious careers. God rest Jay, but Mark is not fake either. That is who he is. The reason why they used to have them fight in Ring of Honor is because they really wanted to fight each other, because they were brothers who grew up on a farm. I think Orange Cassidy is, I don't want to say he's growing on me. I just hate him less than I used to. Does that count?
We're getting to you, Steven, because we've showed you the error of your ways on that he's better than you're giving him credit for.
I'll give it to you guys this way. Orange Cassidy also is getting pushed like he was being pushed.
That's fact. Like, he lost this match. I was surprised he went down. He went out on his back.
Orange Cassidy for a while looked like he was going to get pushed to the moon and get put into a world title program. And the fact that he's not makes me feel a little bit better about the situation with him. And he can keep doing his pockets and his not caring stuff for the whole world to see.
I dig the not caring stuff. My favorite part is his entrance. Hailing from wherever, when, whatever. It's good. And the way that they
the crappy fireworks.
Yeah, and like
the
way
fireworks. Yeah.
The way that the voice changes, it reminds me of everyone's favorite introduction is Chelsea Green. Like I like the actual change in the announcer's voice for this, and I dig that. So, but all in all, yeah, I'm with you guys. This match was pretty solid. Too much Jamokin for me, always is.
Too much Jamokin, and I agree with Hound. One less rotation on those suplexes, and we look at a better match.
That didn't bother me as much.
I see absolutely nothing wrong with Takeshita. I think Takeshita, that man should be pushed to the moon and further at this point. He has size, he has athleticism.
There's one thing that I see that's wrong with him, is that he doesn't win enough.
Yeah. And that's not his fault. That's booking.
It sure isn't. It's Don Callis' fault. Don, get it together, man. You're supposed to be this guy's champion. Heyman wouldn't let this happen. Come on, Jackal.
Could you imagine what Takeshita could do if he was a Paul Heyman guy?
I'm just saying. He should.
I'm just saying.
He should. What's it called? Reevaluate his life.
Maybe we should manage him.
I can't do as good a job as Heyman.
No, but I mean, like, actually manage behind the scene. Like, we should be his agent and get Heyman as his advocate.
I don't know. Don Callis is doing him no favors.
Not a single one.
So let's move on from this one and go over to CEO. I know to say that because it's in her music. But we have Mercedes Moné versus.
We're never gonna not bring it up.
Never.
That's not why I'm laughing. The match was so damn forgettable. I forgot it happened, and I thought we were 2 matches ahead of where we are right now.
You know what? You're 100% right. It was kind of forgettable. This, in my mind, since Mercedes went heel, this was my biggest match of hers. For the TBS title. So Hannah, since you forgot all about it, what do you remember about it?
I do remember. No, it's now that we said it. It's
remember not being memorable.
Yes, I remember. I watched some pixels on the screen and went, well, that was a whole thing. But no, I mean, I was very impressed with Hikaru Shida. I always was. I actually thought she kind of carried the match, and it's something that Steve and I have alluded to in the past. I don't necessarily have a problem with Mercedes Moné's in-ring work. I have a problem with what she's trying to do. She's trying to have a devastating finisher that she weighs 6.5 pounds soaking wet with a brick in her pocket. She should not be pulling that off. Like, Hikaru Shida is not a big lady, but Mercedes Moné, realistically, she can't weigh more than 120 pounds. She can't. And that's the whole gripe behind it. I've always enjoyed Sasha Banks. Her in-ring work is good enough. Steve and I were at an NXT, at the time it was still called a pay-per-view we were at, and we got to see Sasha Banks and Bayley, the first female headlining it, and he and I were on our feet the entire time, and I was getting yelled at because people couldn't see. So, but it was... Yes. That's what I remember. And the thing was she was the one getting hit with the bigger moves. She's the person who can do that. And if you play her character right, cool. She can kick out of a couple of those things where you're like, I can't believe she's as tough as an old leather boot kind of thing. But trying to put somebody on her back who she can't really lift up that well, and then spin them into a DDT around her? Like, what is that move? It's just... That's the whole gripe I have there. Other than that, though, I mean, it was what it was. It did its job. It took up time. Just, I don't know. If it was a grade in high school, you passed with a C+.
Steven calls this kind of match like it bringing the crowd down.
Yeah.
Like this, the purpose of this match was to bring it down before the world title match coming out of the 4-way match.
So I do say that a lot. This match was meh for me just in general. I think a lot of the points that Hound just made, I completely agree with. I constantly say how much I don't like that finisher because she never hits it very cleanly. Like it just doesn't look. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look devastating. It doesn't look like it should put you down, especially not when you've got Ospreay hitting 45 hidden blades 3 matches beforehand. I also think, and it's not so much that I think they do this on purpose. The reason why this is a bring it down match, though, like I don't think Tony did this on purpose to do this as a bring it down match.
I don't think he ever does.
But this is a bring it down match, unfortunately, and its placement hurts it because you came off of Ospreay high, Willow and Statlander street fight high. That 4-way match where you had a little bit of comedy, you had a little bit of everything. It was still a wrestling match. You're kind of high off of that. And then you get this and you know that there's only 2 matches after this and you're going to be way up here. A lot of times match placement is as important as the match itself. If this had been in the spot where the Bucks were, like match number 2, I think this match would have looked a million times better to everybody. And I know I bring this up with the women's matches a lot. Unfortunately, they're not doing them any favors. And I get why Tony did this. He's like, oh, it's the only women's title on here, so it needs to be held in the same comparison as the world title. This is like the co-main event, but it's not.
It's a triple main event, which is impossible. You can't have a triple main event.
No.
You know, I could give you the ability to argue this match. This card had a double main event because one was sanctioned and one wasn't.
Well, you have co-main. You can have a co-main event. You have co-main events in UFCs.
Yes, in UFCs, not in wrestling. Wrestling, it's the last match is the main event.
Yeah, I do agree with you.
I really don't have much to add to this because I don't. I think you guys covered the majority of it, and there was nothing that really stood out in this match. I would like to have seen more. It does bum me out a little bit because I feel like they've been burying Willow a little bit down the card since she lost this title to Monet. Like they were really building her up, and I was really behind her. I was pumped, and I still think that Willow's getting better each week, and I think she's a star in waiting, like a top star in waiting. I just think that they're kind of burying her. She had her 15 minutes of fame, and then she falls back down. I think that's how we book in AEW. So Ricochet, get ready because you're going to be really hot for about a month, and then for the next 2.5 years, you're going to just be falling down the card. So we'll move on to the next match here. Is we have Bryan Danielson versus Jack Perry. Now, I implore you guys to focus on the match, and then we'll talk about the aftermath afterwards.
Yes.
So, Steven, why don't you go? Why don't you go first?
Can I start by saying that I'm happy that they didn't make anything stupid like thinking about having Danielson lose this match?
I was nervous the whole time. I really was.
I am happy he won. I thought this match was everything that it needed to be. Here's the thing. I don't think Danielson knows how to really have a bad match.
Facts.
And him and Jack Perry had a good match. He got the best out of Jack Perry that he could have gotten. And I'm not saying that Jack Perry is necessarily bad. I'm just saying this was the best version of the artist formerly known as Jungle Boy that we were going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I think that's the best I can say about this. The match was not bad. The match itself was not bad. We'll get into the aftermath in the aftermath.
Hound, what do you think about it?
I'm kind of in similar mind there. The match was what it was, and Danielson again. It's almost a disservice if you put somebody in there where you think, okay, they're good enough to go with Bryan Danielson now. because he's going to make them look a grade or two higher than they are. And then when they get back down to earth for their next one, it's like, well, was that it's the Bryan Danielson effect. He's incredible at every portion of wrestling, from the psychology to, I mean, Steve mentioned earlier about MJF making faces, his facial cues. It's almost like there's no wasted motion with him. Everything about Danielson, he's a complete wrestler and a legitimate badass. So when he kicks someone's head in, it's believable because the guy legitimately is a martial artist, and he's also legitimately just somebody I want to fight because it probably kicked my head in. So I can believe that. And we've seen him come back from a neck injury. So overcoming some odds in the ring, I can get behind that, because here's a guy who did in real life overcome some odds to get back to his dream outside of his wife and kids, his dream for his personal life outside of his family. So there's a lot there that is to be said with that. And yes, when Christian Cage came down, I was like, oh no, please, not this quickly. And then I was like, it made me think, I'm like, oh my God, what if they actually do have Jack Perry win this and we're coming full circle back to Christian wanting to be Jack Perry's dad? Like, I was like, please no. But it was, the match was good.
I agree. And I really thought, and I'm convinced now, that Christian is going to retire Danielson with a cash-in. Like, I'm convinced that's what's going to end up, because Danielson's going to retire when he loses the belt. I think he's going to lose the belt after when he came down with his Money in the Bank, whatever you want to call it, because it's exactly that.
That's what it is.
It's a Money in the Bank. Like, the minute he came down, I was like, oh, it's Money in the Bank. There it is. I didn't even think about like Christian or anything else. It was really just like, ooh, Money in the Bank. So that's what we're dealing with here now. They've set the rules now. To be fair, they can change them whenever they want because they do that. But as of right now, he's going to end up cashing this in on Danielson at the right moment to retire him, because that's what Christian gets. He gets that kind of treatment these days where it's like, I feel like Tony Khan's like, I just can't quit you, because that's how his booking feels.
I do want to say something else for Danielson real quick.
Please.
I want to give him a little bit more flowers on this one.
Do it. You won't do it.
Danielson does something else that, for the most part, if it was anyone else, we would get on them for it. And that's, he literally hulks up.
He does.
He actually hulks up. And if it was anyone else in the pro wrestling world, we would probably kind of jump on them for it.
No, we
and
wouldn't.
and we don't, because it's Bryan Danielson. Because it makes sense for him.
Do you know how I know that?
Because you wouldn't do it for Ospreay?
No, because we didn't do it for Daniel Garcia, who hulked up in that match.
That's fair. Although Daniel Garcia has, he's got bargain basement Bryan Danielson written all over him.
Sure, but no one looks at those two guys like they're on the same level at all. And the way they explained it, he gets into that rage.
He gets the red rum.
Yeah, that's and he hulked up against MJF earlier. And you know what? I'm here for it. I enjoy it. You want to do strength,
if you can do it right,
strength,
like just
whatever you want to do, go for it. Eric.
Eric is a bad man.
Oh, good Lord.
We'll fill you guys in on that inside joke later.
Soon. Very soon.
Hopefully. That's a bit of a tease. But yeah, I really did. That's the only reason I disagree, because it happened on the show and we didn't even mention it. So just throwing that out there. I want to keep us honest. I really dug the Jungle Boy face-to-face with Luchasaurus. That was a nice little tip of the hat. And then when everyone is about to beat down Bryan Danielson, we had the Young Bucks interfere in this match because they're going to end his career any way they can. That this title's going to the Elite. The Blackpool Combat Club comes out, makes the save, and then shenanigans happen afterwards. They stop Christian from cashing in the Money in the Bank, which sure, I guess they can do that. And then I got one of my first, I think this is murder chance.
This is murder.
That
Hold on
was-
real quick because I'm recalling what happened during this part of the show. So I'm just going to grab this garbage can to throw up.
Yeah,
If that's okay,
yeah.
because it's gross.
We don't take breaks in the show. So this is murder chance. When the crowd, like, that's where I think the AEW crowd was like, whoa. When you had Moxley using a plastic bag over Danielson's head and suffocating him to death. Like, I believe he didn't die, but he was pretty damn close. And I will say, like, for all it's worth, Yuta was heartbreaking.
Like, yeah, Wheeler's reaction was pretty heartbreaking, and here's the other one. Jim Ross, I don't think that was a fake reaction because he wouldn't get off of it either.
I concur.
I think Jim Ross, who was with WCW when this spot was done originally, I think was like, you guys are dumb. Like, I think that's why he got so mad about it, because I think he was legitimately mad about it. So for the fans out there who are listening to us that either did not see it originally or are not old enough to remember it, there has been a plastic bag spot like this in wrestling before. Only one other time. The two men involved were Terry Funk and Ric Flair. It happened in 1989 at a Clash of Champions. It was so bad and so egregious that Terry Funk was temporarily fired and TBS threatened to take WCW, NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, whatever you want to call it, off the air. This is where I come in on this. First of all, whose idea was this spot? Secondly, who approved this?
The Young Bucks. All answerable.
I feel like it might be the answer to both. I could see this being, because I've also heard that Kingston pitched this idea months ago or a year ago or something like that.
He would.
And they turned it down. Kingston and Mox are also like best friends. I could see Moxley being like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then having the Bucks be like, yeah, you should do it. But absolutely none of this is a good idea. Not a single part of this.
There's a line. And maybe, again, listeners, if you disagree with us, we welcome that. We don't judge people for... Yeah, we don't judge people for their tastes. Like, this is wrestling. This shit's weird. And everyone likes their own version of it. I say often, like, this is not my style, knowing that it's other people's style. I promise you, we won't shame you in the comments, and we'll even come to your defense because you should like what you like. But I need to know. I need to know how this is entertaining, because I want to know. I'm really struggling right now.
I want a reason. Like, I want to know why you like it, and not just because you're an AEW fan. Like, that's what I want in the world. Hound, we kind of cut you off on this one a little bit, so I need you in this one because.
So, when Steve and I did the show last week, I mentioned that I thought Moxley was trying to channel Romper Stomper, the old Australian show with Russell Crowe, and I think that pretty much confirmed it. But there's one thing you can do in this spot, and we're not having this conversation. Change the bag to a belt, because you change the bag to a belt. We're not having this conversation. It's the horror. It's horrifying, is what it is. Because, yes, granted, okay, somebody puts a plastic bag over your face and does that. Okay, yes, poke a hole and pull. That's the fastest way for you to be able to breathe. But in the middle of that, maybe you can't think of that. It's the visual of it. It's because that's used in, like, Dexter, where, okay, they did this. Now this guy's dead, cut up, and on the bottom of the friggin' ocean. I don't want Bryan Danielson cut up into pieces and put on the bottom of the ocean. I kind of like the guy. You know, but it's all you have to do is change that bag to something else, or you don't put the bag over his head. You're holding him down. Pulling either side of it with it just being around his neck. Sure, the visual is still brutal, whatever it is there, but we're not having this same conversation of you're losing me as a potential fan here, and as somebody who wants to see every organization around the world find their lane and do well. I was genuinely angry as a pro wrestling fan and as somebody who spent time in the ring. I'm not going to use the word offended because I think that gets used a little bit too much nowadays, but I was genuinely angered by this spot.
And it escalated quickly. Like, what brought us to this point? What did I miss?
It was definitely
exactly.
that escalated quickly.
How did we go from
He
friends
stabbed
to
a man with a
murder?
trident.
Saw that. He suffocated a guy with a plastic bag.
You might want to go into hiding for a bit.
Where do you go from teammates, relatively close-knit group of guys, to murder? Like,
murder.
That's a big jump. And what happens with Wheeler next? Because he clearly wasn't in on this.
He was not in on this. And kind of how Hound was saying it, I think you could even have done it where they all start jumping him and, Pac is holding Wheeler back. And as they're teasing the bag, Wheeler slides out, pushes the bag out or something like that. The bag never gets used. You can tease the bag and not use the bag. Uh-huh. And it's not so bad. And then you do the belt or you do something else. You tie him up in the ropes. You do whatever. You just constantly beat on him. The second the bag went over the head, it was quick. Like he went from European uppercut to bag over the face.
Yeah. So, and now in my mind, the way they handle that, Wheeler's a hostage because they didn't kick him out. He's there, and he's not. Now he can't leave. And so that one just kind of gets me. So, as you guys
there's
know,
a lot of crimes going on here.
Well, there was one other visual there too that really got to me, and so Pac's holding Wheeler back and Wheeler crying, which, if you were talking cinematically, wonderful.
Brilliant. But he did a great job.
But Pac's face, if you catch it while he's holding him back, there's actual disgust there. I don't think he was comfortable with the spot. I
wouldn't be surprised.
I think he was okay with. He had to be a part of the segment, but because he didn't look, it wasn't like he held Wheeler back like that. He hugged him and just held him against the ropes. I don't think he was comfortable in the slightest there. He's like, I think he was in the what? Where the hell am I right now?
Yeah, and I think once it was one of those things where I'm going to be the guy that holds Wheeler because I don't want any part of that.
Mm-hmm.
I can certainly see that. All right. I wish I could say it didn't get worse.
I know. Oh my God.
But wait.
There's more.
So I'll go first with this one. So Swerve versus Hangman Page in a unsanctioned cage match, blood feud, however you want to say it.
Lights out cage match. I appreciate the lights out because that's an old school thing.
Yep.
That's about where I was at with it. Okay, I appreciate that part.
So
and then everything else.
The match itself, to a certain point, I was in. This match had to be violent. The way it was built, it had to go to the next level. Now, it's really hard to follow up murder and have to go that hard. But they were up to the challenge. Ooh.
Hold my beer.
I want to save the part we're talking for to the very end, and honestly, I feel uncomfortable talking about these last two. This is not my comfort zone. with Strickland and Page, I think this match in the beginning was great. I think they did exactly what they needed to do following that piece of it. Hound, what's your, before we get to the end, what were your thoughts around this match in general?
You're kind of hitting the nail right on the head. For what it was, it had to go over the top.
That's right.
We didn't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but there were a couple spots. Jesus God. There were a couple spots where, when it happened, I was like, but I got it. Like, I don't remember the move where Paige landed on the cinder block, but then they showed the skin scrape, and we've all had them as kids where you fell and just like against the edge of a cinder block, and you like, it brought me back to being 12 and being like, well, every bit of that sucks, and I know that really hurt. And kudos to Paige for being willing to go through that for the sake of this story. But I kind of want to leave it there because I don't have anything else positive to say about it. I did not enjoy this in the slightest.
Did like someone bleed into someone else's mouth in this match, or was that the Garcia match earlier? Like,
I think that something like that happened with the Garcia match earlier.
That was the previous Page
and that was the previous Page Swerve match
where somebody was being a vampire.
I will say this: who's the babyface?
Neither of these guys.
That's been my question this whole time.
Yeah.
I don't there's no face there, and there's not even like a worse heel in this. Because if you want to get down to it, you got Swerve breaking into houses, looking over babies. Realistically, Hangman burned down an empty house. Yeah, that sucks. He burned down his property. He didn't break into his house and stare at his kids. He didn't like go check out his kids before his big main event push. He wasn't stalking him.
Not only that, he cut a promo on the kid while it was sleeping.
Yeah. Swerve cut a promo on the child. Like, Jeezy crazy. I don't know. Maybe it's, and that's the thing is, like, Swerve is getting cheered for this whole thing. But he was just a heel against Danielson like 2 weeks ago.
Swerve's name paints him perfectly, because he will swerve to whatever allegiance he needs to be in the given moment. You know,
what my favorite part of this match was? Prince Nana. Prince Nana was my favorite part of the whole match. Not even just the dance, him yelling on the outside, "You want to burn people's property? You stupid idiot!" The whole time I'm like, yeah, this is great. Like, I can hear you, and you are the best commentator in this whole match. You're way better. But that's my other thing with this show. Tony Schiavone is the worst. The absolute worst.
I can get behind some of the things AEW has done. Like, the whole Jack Perry, Darby Allin fire spots. I get it. It was a little overdone. That's a cooking reference, but like, I see how that could work. Even the arson to the house for like that cinematic promo. I get it. You're taking it to the next level after Swerve did cut the promo. I do have to draw the line at date rape. Is that what I can call this?
He roofied him.
Pay-per-view.
He put drugs in him. He passed out, and then he hit him over the head numerous times with a chair.
Rooflin. Why you keep using that word, rooflin?
I'd call them flurries. This one, yeah. I don't know where to go with this, and this may be the reason why I'm all out. Like, this is
I'm out.
This for that reason I'm all out. I think that makes this title of the pay-per-view very fitting. I don't know where you go from here. I hope they pull back very much. I hope next Dynamite is all unicorns and rainbows, man, because this this was rough.
Like, what do you do from here? Like, that's the thing is, because if you do pull back a lot, like, what do you do? Because you've set this, now you've done this.
You can't take it back.
You can't take it back. None of this can be taken back. Like, this isn't something that you can change in the short term. This has to be like, oh, we didn't do it next week, and we didn't do it for the next 52 weeks. Like, you can't ever do this shit for the next year or two. This stuff on this show is bad enough where Warner Brothers Discovery might pull their television deal.
I
Like,
don't think
the deal, but no, because they're getting that new deal. This is bad enough where they could say, yeah, we're not doing that new deal anymore.
I don't think they will, but Hound, I see you pontificating over there. Why don't you why don't you throw us what you're thinking?
So, I mean, when we were discussing it in our group chat, like I said, we need to retitle this pay-per-view to Felonious Assault. I mean, the match started, there was a comedy spot, comedy attempted murder of attempted decapitation when the cage was lowering. Okay, it doesn't change the fact that you still tried to cut a man's head off, but I understand. Okay, you can I can roll with that. But the moment that you took something that far, and what if, and this is just law of large numbers, it's almost a statistical improbability that somebody watching this didn't actually experience it or know somebody who experienced a horrible situation like that occurring at a bar where something ended up in a drink. It's you can do a lot of things. Again, the plastic bag to the belt, just not fucking drugs. Pardon my French, and I try not to cuss, but God in heaven up above, no roofie coladas. Well, no, it's all wrong, and I've been trying to find a way to defend AEW, and it's, again, like you, I will continue to watch in hopes. The only thing they can do from here is they have to distance themselves so far to where people look back on, and this becomes a dark side of the ring moment, like the New Jack incident where he basically cut that kid's entire head open with a fork.
Yeah, mass transit.
Yeah, this has to become that, and it needs to be distanced away from. Like I said in our group chat, let GCW do this. This is not your lane. There's kids watching this, and again, had you not done the thing with the syringe and the drugs, it changes the entire dynamic of it. Because, like I said, it's a statistical improbability that somebody watching this themselves or doesn't know somebody who's had something happen. And if you're that person, are you ever going to watch that product again? Or are you now reliving a horrible moment in your life and being like, God damn it?
So I need to, how I say this. I have no problem repeating myself. I don't want to repeat myself on the same show that we're recording, but whose idea was this and who approved it? That's what it's going to come down to. And is this the Bucks again? Like, who produced this match? Who was the agent on this match that said, no, you guys should go do that?
Do you know what hasn't been done in a while?
Date rape.
I don't mean to laugh at date rape, but goddamn, that was actually funny how you said that.
But the way you said that, yeah, like it's
that's how we all three of us like to cut uncomfortable situations with humor. It's a defense mechanism. You could look it up. This is 100% the only place I can go. All of this stuff is very serious. If you've ever been affected by some of this, you guys have our condolences. There is helplines to call for that stuff, and you should definitely take advantage of those. But I think I'm going to end it here because I don't know where else we go, and we're just going to start spiraling into this conversation that I really don't want us to. AEW, be better, man. Like, if I can ask it, like, we joke all the time about how we think that Triple H or Tony listen to this. Tony, if you're listening, be better, man. You're better than this.
Don't let this stuff happen anymore, man. This isn't good.
This was too much. It was too much for me.
You're an international product. Don't let this happen.
Yeah, this is not my cup of tea. And with that, thank you guys for sitting with us. This was probably the most awkward that you will ever see me in my entire life because I am so uncomfortable reviewing this pay-per-view. We appreciate you guys for your support. Please give us something. Don't talk at all about how you thought this was fun. I don't want you to write that stuff on the internet. You can tell us why you thought the plastic bag stuff was, because there was, I don't know. I'm just going to stop from there. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you guys. Hound, thank you for joining us again. Steven, as always, stay classy. And all of you out there, we'll see you next time, or we'll see you another time.
And as always, guys, keep your chin tucked when you bump. See, that's what they did to me.